Oh my god, quad kill. Oh, is it me?
It wasn't the
Is it me? Your boy.
I'll start off by saying this and get right to the chase for the people who clicked on this review. XDefiant has great groundwork, some snappy shooting, and phenomenal controls, and is overall a fun game that I'm having a blast with. That being said, XDefiant does some just absolutely outrageous things that really spit in the face of the first-person shooter community that also hold it back from the greatness that's actually here underneath. Let's get into it.
It was at this moment he knew he messed up.
XDefiant is essentially a first-person shooter with hero mechanics. Imagine if you took a little bit from Overwatch and a little bit from Call of Duty and did your best to mash them all up. You start by picking a class from different factions, as this game calls it. Each character has a special ability and one of two ultimates that you can choose from, as well as a passive ability. And each ability does make it feel somewhat different, but these abilities are nowhere near as strong or as often as a game as Overwatch. Really, it feels more like Call of Duty than anything else. The game also comes with your standard game modes, such as Team Deathmatch, Domination, Escort, the Payload, similar game modes that you would find in a Call of Duty franchise game. You also have the ability to customize your loadout amongst a selection of weapons, and you can also attach up to 5 attachments to each weapon in order to tailor your experience and get the firearm that best suits your combat needs. For me, the maps were a mixed bag. There's a lot of maps that kind of tend to fall on the New Age Modern Warfare 2 style, where there's just lots of corners, nooks, and crannies for enemies to hide on. And then there are other maps that kind of have a more traditional 3 to maybe 4 lane layout with a little bit more open spaces. The maps are vibrant and colorful, and there's lots of good combat locations. But luckily, the time to kill is a little bit longer, something akin to Black Ops 4 or maybe Battlefield 1, to alleviate the camper's ability to turn the maps against anyone else who isn't sitting in a corner. So the time to kill paired with these maps makes for a great shooting experience. Sadly, this is where the positives end for this game. Which brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the number one gripe that I have for this game, and I'm going to get it right out of the way because this is what everyone needs to know. The multi-billion-dollar studios or million-dollar companies that create these games, it's like they're so out of touch with players. My biggest flaw with this game is the fact that you can't communicate with the enemy team. Like, what person sat there and thought to themselves, hey, you guys have got a great idea. We're making a first-person shooter. Let's make it so that no one can communicate, so that after the game is over and after the match has concluded, you can't talk trash to the enemy team. The enemy team can't talk trash to you. You can't fire up or get fired up about a situation of some friendly trash talking. Does trash talking introduce toxicity? Of course it does, but the game's rated what it's rated for a reason. It's a first-person shooter. If you have a 4-year-old playing the game, that sounds like a personal problem. Call of Duty, it is what it is. These games, they bring out the toxicity. That's not a reason to take away people's freedom to communicate with the opposite squad. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it's so bad, especially how you barely ever even find anyone on your own team that actually talks, that you just feel like you're playing a game with and against bots. And sadly, that's been the experience. I have ran into a couple of people, a time or two, a game or two, but for the most part, every lobby's quiet, the end of the game is quiet, and there's nobody to talk to on either side. Huge major flaw for me, gigantic red flag, and in my personal opinion, whoever made that the goal and that the roadmap of where we were heading with this game, they need to lose their job. And now it's time for number 2. because there are three major things that just screw this game. Number two is how they keep track of the stats. Look, if you're going to be lazy and you don't want to put a stat tracker in the game, at least do what everyone else does and create an app or a website that I can go to actively track my stats. This game does something where you can have your stats tracked, but they only track your stats for the past 10 games. And there is no career-long stats. So the game doesn't really track your career stats at all. You can't see your headshots, you can't see your multi-kills, you can't see your kill streaks, you can't see your highest kill streak, you can't see your career loss-win ratio, you can't see your career kill-death ratio. It is literally all for your last 10 games only. Oh, and as usual, you can't look at other people's combat records because in today's world, God knows, it's just going to hurt their feelings. Huge red flag for me in a first-person shooter because isn't that what we play for? We play for our stats. That's the point. That's what it is. And anyone who doesn't know that isn't a first-person shooter game player. It is what it is. And the last major flaw, there are many other minor ones, but the last major flaw that I'd like to focus on is the fact that, as usual, we're disbanding lobbies again. Every single time you get into a game, the lobbies are disbanded immediately after the game. This is also felt even more so because of the atrociously long wait times, because the loading is just forever in this game. Like, it wouldn't be so bad if it were you backing out of a lobby, but since the game does it every single time the game ends, and you have to sit there and look at your loading bar on the bottom right corner of the screen as it goes to 20% and then stops for 10 seconds before it then fully loads to 100%, it's just annoying, and it takes forever, and it's just not cool to disband lobbies. Anyways, what if I wanted a rematch? What if I wanted to run it back? It's not something the community has ever been fond of. I don't know why we're continuing to put this in games. My next gripe is a matter of opinion, but how are we getting rid of play of the game, right? At the end of this game, it shows you the player of the game. And all it is the person or skin that you have, and he's sitting on the stage making a gesture, and that's it. And it's like in games like Overwatch, Black Ops 4, Call of Duty Cold War, we have many games now that have the ability to show us play of the game, right? Like imagine if you are a basketball fan or a football fan, have you, and after the game's over with, you hop on ESPN, right? And at the end of it all, you get to see a picture of, let's just say, Kevin Durant, right? You get to see a picture of Kevin Durant, and that was the player of the game. Or do you want to see Kevin Durant's play of the game as he jumps up and dunks on someone's face, or just, step back threes in someone's eyes? And it's just like the idea of taking the play of the game away when this technology is not new. It's clearly more engaging and just something that's wanted more so and appreciated more so by the community. To replace that with a still frame of the player of the game, it's just backwards thinking. And a lot of my gripes, I'm honestly hoping they're laziness. I would hate to say that I would want a video game company to be lazy, because, what does that say about our future with the game? But at the same time, if it's actual design decisions, there's no hope at all. So that's just, it's a nitpick thing. But for me, coming from play of the game and then just seeing a still frame, that's just another tick off the list for something negative. The next one is a glaring issue that I think is going to impact players across the board. Early in the game, you level up your weapons, and the only thing that you get for leveling up your weapons are the attachments, right? And that's a fine system. I love leveling up weapons, gaining new attachments, testing out new builds and loadouts. That's perfectly fine. But as far as the camos go in this game, it's clear this game is made in the image of Call of Duty. There are three end-of-the-game camos, if you will: bronze, silver, and gold, which are unlocked at obnoxiously high levels. And that's fine, right, for us grinders who want to get out here, max our guns out. But I'm looking at why in the world we don't have any more camos to unlock along the way, right? Like, I've put in about 5 or 6 hours on one of my particular guns that I've played with, and I'm only at level 30, right? I'm only at level 30 with 5 hours of gameplay on one particular firearm. Why not along the way let us unlock more camos? It would make the camo, like the grind, for something to do, just a little bit more engaging, and kind of give the player a little bit more. So I think that that's definitely missing, and I think you're going to feel that pretty hard when you begin playing. You know, at the end of the day, I hate making reviews like this because at its core, I mean, if you look in the background right now, this great play, I'm getting healed, we had a shield down, we're all on the objective. At its core, the abilities, even though they're not as strong or impactful as Overwatch abilities, they do make subtle differences in the gameplay, and the gameplay's tight, and the gunplay is snappy and responsive. We have a great foundation for a great game here. And it's a lot of fun, even in its current state, with all of the negatives that I've just given you here in this review. I definitely think that unless these things are changed, this supposed COD killer will never live up to the hype of that legend. Because with the inability to hear people on the enemy team, the inability to really hear anybody on your team at all, you just consistently feel like you're playing with and against bots. With barely any challenges to do along the way, save unlocking some attachments, and at times definitely some questionable netcode, getting killed behind walls and etc., things like that. I definitely think that it's going to be held back unless the developers really take a second look and hopefully listen to the community on what we really need here. XDefiant is a great game that has a lot of opportunity to become an excellent time. But the developer has to make those necessary changes. The potential to dethrone the king is here, but unless we see some kingsmanship quality come to the table, it looks like this prince might be in the shadowy footsteps of the king forever.